ask. The Austin Sun, this may be the best podcast ever made. A boy and his dog. A podcast that has become a cult legend.
Right now I'm hungry and I want to get laid.
That's what you always say.
You asked it around, get a cheeseburger out of my food. It's gone. What are you doing? Come on. That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
Hey kids, it's your old pal ML Elric back from a luxurious Labor Day holiday, the start of college football. For Michigan State, it started half an hour later than everybody else in the country. For Clemson, it maybe still hasn't started. And for Keon Coleman, I take back everything I said about you being a greedy bastard. That performance against LSU put that guy on everybody's draft board if they weren't paying attention. And I also...
If only Michigan State had money to pay him, right? Isn't that the big problem?
Well, sometimes the best things in life are free, like free Harbaugh. Is that his going rate now? Or is that a political statement?
I want to tell our listeners about Keon Coleman first, please.
What? Who?
For those that don't know who he is.
Oh, hey, guess who's back from vacation? Go ahead, you got the floor.
No, I just wanted you to do it, Michigan State guy.
I said all I had to say about him. You don't want me to go on and on. I was concise. I was to the point. I moved on. And
a wide receiver for the Michigan State Spartans that left for Florida State for reasons that are unknown except for money.
Well, all we hear is that he needed more money.
Yeah.
Because then Mel Tucker complained about not having enough money. Even though, how much does he make?
Mel?
Oh, is it his job to pay him?
No, but I'm just saying, I don't want to hear him complain about money when he's making $9.5 million.
Mel Tucker now makes the median average salary for major coaches in the United States, which is a tragedy and a disgrace and a shame. But we want to get to some more positive stuff, like my great column on the mayor's race, which everybody read, and which revealed my adult dyslexia that kicked in. Yeah, it's good. Okay. People moving forward, people standing up and declaring their interest in being a part of our political class and our leadership and all that other good stuff. And we have a special guest, John Carlisle from the Detroit Free Press, is here to talk about a story that is just going through the roof about a dog and old people, and only one of those groups has accidents in the house, and he's going to tell us which one it is and how that dog got into the house. So, John, great to have you on the show.
Hi, boys. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, as we said. Sean is beyond. So he says, once again, he loves it when the Soul of Detroit has two great Detroit Free Press columnists on. It doesn't happen every week, but this week it's pretty much guaranteed. So
yeah, no, I'm definitely not in that company.
So that's a wonderful. Oh, who said that?
You're saying
he always says that.
No, he's always talking about how good he is, and that's fine. You prop yourself up.
Why don't you try propping yourself up?
It's just no reason to, really.
Oh,
I don't deserve that.
You're the worst.
You know, self-love, Sean, doesn't always involve puffs with lotion, okay? Sometimes it comes from within.
Why do you need lotion if you know what you're doing?
What? Wait, what?
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that one. Okay, expand on that.
John says he doesn't go blue. It's good because we got that covered. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some feedback where some people are weighing in on some of the dynamic personalities on this show. Perhaps some of their self-loathing has revealed itself in their hatred for others.
I just like the fact that I had to run outside the studio for a second, and I realized, is that your car right out front of the house, John?
Yes.
So we both drive Hondas. So that says something, no?
What does it say? What does it say?
I don't know. That we're not driving a Riviera. They were driving along, and we're not saying, "Hey, look at me." That's to me what it says.
I think it reflects our salary.
I was going to say that.
And maybe mileage.
Yeah.
Well,
on us or the cars?
Both, probably. Yeah,
they're both high.
Well, less than 24 hours after Labor Day, Sean gives a free plug to the Japanese car makers. Thank you very much on behalf of all American workers.
That are made in
Indiana, though.
Made in Ohio, right?
Ohio, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, where are your cars made?
I think mine was made in Flint.
Was it? Where were the parts made?
Maybe in Lansing. In 1985?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're talking about your Riviera.
They're probably made at a foundry somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Shit.
That's
and I
true.
drive a 300, which I think is made Windsor. If you hate Canada, then our friends in South Detroit may want to speak to you. In
Yeah, a
fact,
bunch of progressives over there.
I think Clemmy and I might have a little conversation with you on the other side of the bridge if you're interested in that.
You know, this has gotten a lot harder since you put this big giant monitor, and I can't see you anymore. Which is
Well, he's on the monitor. You
Yeah,
can
but
see
it's
him on
not
the
the
monitor.
same. There's a delay.
You need to experience like the audience experiences.
There you are.
Oh, that's only if you're watching
He's
on
very
Facebook.
good. He's good looking, right? He's
YouTube.
fetching. It's
We,
part of the
No,
charm.
He doesn't understand how the medium works, I don't think.
Yeah, no, he doesn't even understand how the
What's a
extra
medium?
small works. Sean's more of a double XL guy. Don't talk mediums.
We're talking about my chins.
No, I don't judge you based on your looks. Although I do know you, so I feel safe complimenting your good looks. But I
That's a
don't.
callback.
This is what you came for, John?
By the way,
I'm not disappointed yet.
did anybody see that game that happened in a suburb of Dallas where Coach Prime kicked the shit
Oh my God,
out
it
of
was great.
TCU?
It was awesome.
I
Unbelievable.
think that's actually in Fort Worth, or maybe I think TCU's.
In Fort Worth.
In
Yeah,
Fort
it's a
Worth.
suburb of Dallas.
I'm slow.
Slow down.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it was great. Didn't everybody love that? Is anybody very mad about it? Other than Lee Corso was angry about Prime, having all the transfer portal people.
Did you hear the way he was getting jeered before the game? Did you see that
I
clip?
did see it, yeah.
Was that a little? What did you think of those jeers? Were they regular boos, or was there something a little bit more to them?
I thought it was regular college football booze.
Okay, just curious. What you
Why?
thought.
And maybe I'm missing something.
Maybe
now.
because I know
What was
that
said?
area, and yeah.
What do you think it was racist?
And TCU, I don't know. I want to be careful what
What does
I
that
say
mean? TCU, what, a Christian school? Dion is very Christian.
here. He is.
Well, you know what's funny? Usually I will roll my eyes at some college coaches talking about Christianity because I think it's just more a
Recruiting tool.
or recruiting. I don't know. I think it just
Depends on the coach, right?
Exactly.
And where they're from. Where's Dion's faith come from? It comes up out of singing hymnals, picking cotton to survive.
Well-
no, seriously, that's where his faith comes from. It does. That's the tradition that's been passed down. It's about
Well, I mean,
survival.
he wrote in
where
his
does
book-
TCU folks' faith
He wrote
come?
in his book that it was driving off of a cliff when his life was falling apart.
Right, but he was
to
taught
women
that
and
as a
drugs.
kid, whose parents were taught that as a kid, right? So that's where it did. That's why it feels a little bit different.
I don't know. He seemed to be born again, and it just, look, we judge these things, and I just felt he was very genuine about
Did you
it.
see the clip of his speech, pregame speech?
Hell of a speech. It's like you're being used in church.
Did you want to exactly?
Got everyone all riled up.
Did
Those
you want to
guys
go?
all nodding,
Did you
they're
want to
all
go play
intense.
for him? And what was he talking about? Not you, but the guy next to you. It's a very
It's an
clever,
interesting technique.
It's a very clever technique, isn't it?
Maybe
I
run
do this-
outside of the backyard. I had nothing to do. I just wanted to go.
It's not you. You're not a dog. The guy next to you
Yeah.
is a dog. The guy next to you cares about you. That's in
But
football in
that's-
particular, because
That's
there's a lot
not a
of pain.
new message that you play for the guy.
It's not a
next
new
to-
message at all, but there's a tone to it that's just.
It must have worked.
And he was building up to a crescendo. I remember Courtney Hawkins, your guy, right, Mike?
He's his own man, but I am a fan of Mr. Hawkins.
Receiver, real quick. Receivers coach at Michigan State. He was a high school coach at Flint Beecher for a long time. And Eric Seals, who's a really good videographer, photographer at the Free Press. And I spent a whole fall up there. It's probably 15 years ago, back when I was actually writing. And he would start before the game. He'd kneel his team down and say the Lord's Prayer, right, in a public school. But the way he would do it, they would start almost singing. It would start as a chant, and it would turn into a song by the end of it. And it got louder and louder and louder. And if you didn't, he made you want to go run out on the field and endure pain, which is what football is. And it gets a little blurry, separation of church and state and that with a public school. But the power in the way that he did that, it was really something. And it made me think of that when I listened to Dion.
I wish he would pray over Malik Carr's hands because he had some pretty ugly drops on
That's all you care about.
Friday, but he did make a catch.
Don't pay the players, but make sure you perform for me.
I'm praying for a young man. What's wrong with that? I do this show for you because I already feel good about myself. This is all about trying to boost your ego. We want you to try and.
I want to lord over rental properties and tailgate and make money and watch these kids, but I don't want them to get paid. And goddamn it, catch.
Well, thanks for the blasphemy and the judgment. I thought you were the guy who didn't judge everybody. But you know who doesn't doesn't believe in the power of prayer for your future. Wow, that didn't sound good, dude.
No,
it makes him sound like he's
He very much believes in it.
he's soulless. But no,
He also believes in numbers.
he's not praying for a better tomorrow. He's working towards it every single day.
He's
working
doing both. How
for
about
you.
that?
He's working for the person next to you. He's praying for your good fortune, but he's
There you
also
go.
helping you build
There you go.
that fortune, and maybe he's wondering why he's helping us with
And
the
that
show.
man
But his name is Luke Nowacki.
Is Luke Nowacki. You can give him a call, 248-663-4748. Luke is a fiduciary. He's an investment guy. He wants to make sure that your goals, what they are, and then he wants to make sure you're targeting them correctly. You know, bonds, do you want equity? Where are you going to put your money so it grows? So you're going to have plenty of money late in life, and you won't have to work all the time, maybe, right? Isn't that how it works? Call Luke Nowacki, free consultation, 248-663-4748.
Because while some people lord over tenants and throw tailgates, Luke makes it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. member FINRA SIPC.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc.
We're also brought to you by the Caju Cafe, the pride of the East Side. Kitchen's open late every night. They have live music virtually every night. It's a great place to go for eats, beats, and treats. Oh, it sounds like kind of like the butchery too. But this is on the East Side. This is the Caju Cafe. We're going to tell you a little bit more about who's playing at the Caju Cafe later on in the show. But to find out what's happening whenever, you can go to the CajuCafe.com. So there are two sponsors here, and of course we're sponsored by everybody who has the kindness to open their wallet, and you know, if they're not being lorded over, they can just maybe out of the goodness of their heart send us a few shekels.
Yeah,
So-
that means you struck a nerve.
Well, you know who struck a nerve is John Carlisle with his story about a dog. John has been one of the premier attractions at the Free Press for a long time, writing stories that you won't find anywhere else about places you might not get to, but when you read his stuff, you're like, I think I'm going to try it. I think Mark may have found a reason to spend some more time up north recently, so he knows what a fascinating place it is. But John wrote a shaggy dog. Well, it's not really a shaggy dog. He's kind of more of a...
He's well-groomed. He's not too shaggy.
He's a handsome, sort of a shepherd mix, would you say?
He's a little bit of Rottweiler, Shepherd, a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Just a mutt.
So typical wild beast there, and not exactly John London material. I mean, he's not beating off, oh boy, he's not going after wolves or coyotes or anything like that, but he is bringing a lot of comfort and a lot of happiness to some codgers.
Yeah, dog. Do I tell the story briefly?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, this is a story where people like the star of the Carlos and Sean podcast was saying, this is a movie. This should be a movie. Hollywood would be calling John Carlisle and saying,
We're going to steal your story. That's what they're going to say.
yeah, they usually don't call to do that. They just do it,
and they
right?
don't pay you. No, so there was I came across a story about this dog that they picked up wandering up north, took to a animal shelter, and he somehow broke out. He had to climb a 10-foot chain link fence, which it's hard enough for a person. I don't know how a dog does it, but he did it, hopped over across the highway, and for some reason walked into this nursing home, snuck in middle of the night. They have automatic doors. They're a little more trusting up there. There's very few protocols.
Yeah, it's...
Normally you need a key card or something to
Yeah, you just
swipe
walk in,
that open. Yeah,
just like we did. So he went to sleep on a couch in the lobby for the night. And so the next day, a nurse found him, and she was astonished. You know, who's this dog? No one knew who this dog was. So they called the animal shelter, and the animal.
It's not a small dog, right? I mean, you see this dog laying, and you're like, oh, okay, I better be careful with
Pretty
this.
medium-sized,
Okay.
good-sized dog, 70, 80 pounds. And so they called the animal shelter.
big
and
dog.
The shelter said, coincidentally, he escaped from us. We're going to come get him back. So they took him back. A couple days later, he's back on that couch. Like, how does he keep doing this? They took him back. Third time he does this. So this time, oddly enough, the nursing home says, maybe we should just keep him. He clearly wants to be here. And so they adopted this dog. And it just becomes an unusual sort of inadvertently feel-good story. I don't like doing feel-good stories. You know what I mean? They're hallmarky. I try to put something dark in there to balance it out. I just hate that stuff. But
Well, the dog ripped an old person's throat out, right?
he did not actually. It's shocking.
Oh.
It's what's weird about it is that they trusted
I guess
this
I
dog.
misread that.
These are very slow old people. You're taking a risk letting a dog in there. No
Yeah,
one
when
knows
they
who
don't
this
know his
dog is.
background either, too, right? Isn't that pretty risky?
Yeah, exactly. He had been abused. You could tell he cowers. You go near him, he barks at men. I mean, There's risks all over the place.
As he should.
Yeah, but he's real gentle with the old people. He's a little older up there.
What do you mean, as he should? What do you
Bark it, man. We deserve to be barked at.
Sean is cowering.
John, I was wondering this what I guess, what do you call it? Long-term care facility or old what is it?
It's nursing home. I know they got some euphemism for it, but it's a nursing.
What else is around there? I mean,
They're making Soylent Green.
why is there anything next door? Is that like the first building he saw?
He had other there was an apartment complex down the road. You go a little farther, there was a gas station. So, there's not a ton out there, but it's weird that he kept going there. Maybe he tried other doors and this was the only automatic one. No one knows. But, that's kind of supposedly the charm of it, the little bit of mystery. Why did he choose that, I kind of left it ambiguous.
How'd you find out about it? You said you came across it. What does that mean exactly?
So, it's hard to find stories up there. And, you scour.
Not for you.
Well, it's harder than it looks. So we look in very obscure places. I just saw somewhere an ad for a fundraiser for this shelter. The nursing home was holding. It was just some ad somewhere, and it said, in honor of Scout, or on behalf of Scout, this dog who escaped the shelter and came here and we adopted him. I thought, that sounds very strange. I should explore it. And that's how I found it, That Mike and I were talking about earlier. The best stories are often just a footnote or an asterisk in something else, And so it was like that. We just went up there. Even when we were going up, I was talking to Ryan Garza, the photographer. I'm like, this is a stupid idea. Why are we going up here? We're going to interview a dog, But it turned out, you never know which ones are going to take off. But you're right about dogs, and people go bonkers.
We used to have this problem when I was at this small paper in New Hampshire. You put a dead person on the front page of the paper, nobody cares. Then one time you put a dead moose on the front page of the paper, the phones are ringing off the hook because people really connect to animals. I think they feel like animals have never done anything wrong.
They're
right?
innocent.
So when something bad happens to them, the poignancy is kind of built in. But before this dog made its way over to the nursing home, any idea where it was before it got to the shelter? Was he picked up off the street? Did somebody drop him off? Was he just...
They said they just found him wandering, and out there it's kind of countryside, so somebody must have called in and said, here's a dog, and they brought him in, and I think within a day he bailed.
He had enough.
He was born to run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I make a good song.
While
you're looking for nuggets out there, it might want
No.
What's the response been like? I mean, Mike was relaying it to his experience, but what about your experience? What was
It
that?
took off. It went crazy, you combine dog with up north, and up north stories always seem popular, so it took off way more than I wanted. I don't know about you guys, but it's often the ones you put the hardest work in don't ever do as good as you want, but then something goofy like a dog. I'm not downplaying it. It's a good story, but I've worked harder on other things that did a fraction of this, but it took off, and then it got linked elsewhere, and then other people thought it was so good they wrote their own version, which was fantastic to see. Yeah.
Nice.
And they mentioned you
Was it really
in a
that
footnote
fantastic?
this time. Yeah,
I became the footnote.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Full circle.
cycle of life, brother.
Yeah.
But you do a lot
action.
of interesting stories from the UP, and the way a lot of us became aware of you was your work for the Metro Times, where you're telling these really kind of, and I don't want to say offbeat because I think it diminishes them, but these stories out of Detroit that you wouldn't get anywhere else, and you developed a reputation. You became kind of a legendary guy, and then came to the Free Press and continued doing the great work. And you still do a lot of great work around here. I mean, I loved your story on the house bars in Wyandotte. I still need to go to one of those. I hope they're still open. Are they still open?
I think there are some. I kind of did that. Mark Kurlianchuk took the lead on that. I kind of did more of the supportive drinking on that one and reviews.
We all have a role to play.
Yeah,
That's the one I would have picked.
It's harder in Detroit. I love doing Detroit. I think I hit a lot of the low-hanging fruit. It's harder to find stuff, I had a good one last year. I found a house where people go and they take psychedelics and
Oh yeah, I remember
massive
that. The
doses.
Mushroom House. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the opposite of a wholesome dog story. I got funny feedback. A lot of our older readers did not care for that story.
That's a great story.
What was the name of the guy?
That was a great story.
Sincere Genesis. He has like 5 names. They're all made up, 7 and all this. And he was a talker, man. You just turn on the tape and he'd talk for an hour and just the universe and psychedelics and philosophy and religion. especially when the drugs started kicking in. Because
Yeah.
I'd go there, and he'd dose up before the interview.
Yeah.
So as the interview would go on, the sentences would get a little longer, get a little dreamier. Anyway, that's
That
the kind of
happens
stuff.
on this podcast, actually. Sean may be dropping right now.
Oh yeah, it's his fault. John, so you live down here in this area. But
I do.
Thank you, Mark.
I know, but you write so much about the UP. I mean, that seems odd. I guess that just reading it, I assumed you lived up north.
I know a lot of people think that. I just like writing about obscure things, and that was always an area that was undercovered. Not many people go up there. That's where you find a lot more obscure stories, just like Detroit neighborhoods. And it's just easier to find them up there now. You can throw a rock and find a story, whereas in Detroit, I got to work a little harder. Plus, it's a free trip up north, so I go up north.
Do you do it for the mileage?
Get the
That's
mileage.
what I-
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the mileage. Sometimes we just go in circles to rack it
Yeah.
up.
You had a really good story about, and maybe it's just because of what I do, near and dear to my heart, about the radio station, the high school radio station that got their frequency bought out by a bigger Christian radio group, which really doesn't seem terribly Christian. It's a really good story, but I wondered, has there been a follow-up to that? Have they raised the money to get a new frequency?
Oh, they've raised like 10. They've raised, I think, 30 grand. They needed like 2 or something. And you don't buy them. They assign them to you. What
That's
they need.
true,
They
yeah.
needed a new transmitter because they had a low power one. So they got the money.
10
for
watts,
it.
right?
Yeah,
10
10
This
watts.
is really weak, but yeah.
I know the editors wrote me. They're like, "Hey, sure? Do you mean 10 kilowatts?" I said, No, 10 watts.
Yeah.
It's 10 watts. You can't. Once you get around the hills around town, you can't hear the station. But yeah, they had a great outcome.
I like that story because it really showed how, a lot of people love saying radio's dead. And yeah, in major markets, radio's dead, right? Because everybody's got internet access. You can stream Spotify or listen to podcasts. But up there, internet's a little spotty, and the communities are so tied in to, events that are going on and local things that radio still plays a huge role in those small markets. And this was just a little high school radio station. So they're talking about their lives and stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of sad to read that and them going, oh boy, we lost our frequency. Someone took it over.
That station's great. It's kids talking about random things and about things they see in class. But even though it's a high school station, like for example, the grocery store pipes it in. That's their music. The kids talking. And
Really?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
Isn't that
great.
funny.
That's
town,
awesome.
The town grocery store. Yeah, that's a great. David and Goliath and all that. But people say radio is dead till you get north of that bridge and your Spotify playlist stops
Exactly.
working, which happens
Oh, yeah.
all the time. And so I love listening to the radio up there. It's like their classic rock stations play completely different songs than ours do.
Oh, that's
like things you haven't heard in
Very
years.
deep cuts, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I mean,
a lot
I've
more
made-
freedom. They're not as corporate.
Yeah, exactly. And they have weird things up there. They have like live auctions on the air. People call up. It's like a garage sale on the air.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I'm selling a used table, $10. Call this, and they'll give out their number on
Yeah.
the air.
They
You
did
can't
that in
get
New
here.
Hampshire too. Swap shop.
Swap
Yeah,
shop.
Yeah,
and
something
we
like
go
that.
for an hour, and you had no interest in buying any of this stuff, but some of the things people were selling were so weird, and the host was. He was a guy who I think was missing some teeth, so he kind of whistled when he talked. So he was not your classic radio guy, but the whole dynamic, you really felt like you're getting a feel for the place. And I was just driving back from Muskegon and went through Ionia and their local radio station, exactly what you were saying. I'm listening to classic rock. I'm like, I have not heard this forever. They played Hot Rod Lincoln.
Oh,
You
wow.
never hear
Commander
that on
Cody?
CSX. Yeah, I mean, it's great stuff, man.
Yeah, not to pick on a local station, but they do play. You'll hear the same number one hits
Oh, yeah.
from
Yeah.
the 70s over and over and over, where these guys will play deep album cuts and B-sides. And
You might
they're
even
really
hear
good
Triumph,
songs.
right?
You might. You're almost guaranteed to.
I'm trying to get Mike to sing.
You should be. You should be. Has anybody seen the Triumph documentary, by the way?
No.
No.
It's awesome.
Just you.
I watched it twice. It's
Mike
very,
loves Triumph, and he likes to sing.
very good. I don't like to sing, at least not when there are people.
No, you like to sing Triumph.
I do like Triumph.
Well, let's hear a few lines.
You have
let's
to.
not.
I don't want to make you miss your lunch.
Oh,
break.
he does it well.
But so the dog story's taken off. I mean, a lot of stories from the UP people really love, and they really get into them, and they're great. They're great tales. One of the things that we've been speculating on is where does this go? I mean, is this the next great Disney movie? What do you think happens? Do people ever call you and say, "Hey, can you write a magazine article for us?" Or have you thought about redoing this for us? Or you name it, like CBS Sunday Morning or something.
No.
Has Jane Pauley got you on speed dial?
No, you know what happens is I'm
Other
watching.
than that uncomfortable romantic entanglement you
I
had.
don't
where
want to
Doonesbury
talk about that
got
right
mad.
now. I'm not ready for that, okay? I'm still dealing. But I find out about CBS Morning News when I'm watching CBS Morning News. I'm like, that guy looks familiar. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the guy I interviewed 2 weeks ago. So they don't even call. And I don't get offers. This business, sometimes I just can't take it, that people will just copy you without acknowledging it. At least this time, the few people who did copy it acknowledged that we did it first. They'll link to the Detroit Free Press. And it doesn't even have to be to me. I don't care about my name or anything, but at least acknowledge you took it from someone. But
Right.
yeah, I get no offers for nothing. No money.
Okay. That's the equivalent of the old radio rip and read, where people are reading your story on the radio and they never mention, and as reported.
Or TV, they still do it in local TV, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Some of
No.
the Detroit stuff I've done, they'll go out the next day and they'll do it. And there's not a mention that the Free Press did it. You know, we're the ones who did 99% of the legwork and got this guy warmed up talking, but nope.
And they get warned about that occasionally, where if something's wrong in there and they don't attribute it to the original source, they're now liable. So for their own sake, these reporters should be saying, is the Free Press first report, then get right in. Nobody really hears that. Nobody's going to be less interested in the TV story if they know where it came from in the first place. It's just kind of...
It covers them.
It's just well, for legal reasons, they should do it, but just for human decency, they should think about it. It's kind of a little
That's a lot
graceful
to
moment
ask.
they can have. I guess so. I guess so.
John, was it surprising to you how this story took off? Really?
Well, a little bit. I knew it would take off. I didn't know it would go this crazy. It's gotten so far like 10 times the amount of readership a normal story gets. And it's all over the country. I'm getting letters from Texas.
A normal story of yours, or just
Of
like
mine,
say
of mine, 'cause everyone
like a
knows
Mike Elric?
Well, no
story.
one's going to hit that.
Yeah,
those
I mean,
heights.
come on. Let's not be ridiculous. We want to be gracious to our guests, but
We can only
he's no MLL.
aspire.
Come-
Exactly.
Third
Jeez.
person.
Come on. What the hell?
But, we all know what our usual is, and it just took off. It's all over the country, and everyone's saying how they are crying. I'm not sure why it touched people like that. It was just kind of a...
You tapped into the Tony Soprano's fine killing his best friend, but he's going to cry when the Ducks leave. That's
Exactly.
That's what you tapped
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're all getting older. We all get lonely. We've all had pets. We all know how much a pet means to us. And I think it's one of those things where when you see that these codgers are kind of coming to life because this dog, and the way you wrote about, he's going into rooms and he's checking on people who don't feel well. This dog seems to be
in tune.
Yeah, it's very empathetic. And I think we can connect to that. I know that one of the things that I worry about when I get locked away for raving or doing whatever, throwing my diaper at people, is that I won't have pets. I've had pets my whole life. They mean more to me than some of the people in my life, because you can always count on them. They're always there. And it seems sad to lose that, along with your friends and your family and your motor skills and your your wits.
Marco, are you rolling your eyes, Mark?
Your train of thought. No, I was really interested to see where he was going.
Oh, you did? Yeah, you sounded really
got very
interesting.
morbid there.
You sounded really interesting.
Well, I have a morbid question.
Continence.
How long has Scout been at this home?
He's been there 5 years, so this is not breaking news. Yeah, it's just no one knew about it. So I went in there and wrote about it. Yeah, so he's a permanent resident.
So I assume he's experienced death up there.
Well, yeah. In fact, one of the guys I put a few older gentlemen in the story, and one of them died 3 weeks after we went there, before the story even came out. I just found that one of the readers told me.
I only asked because I remember seeing a story like about a cat, right? And the cat kind of knew when a resident was about to pass, which is kind of very ominous that this cat would come into the house.
Well, cats will eat you if they find you dead in the house.
Thank you for that piece of information.
He was just planning ahead.
But that's what they said there, that he knows.
That's what I was wondering.
And he lays down with the people who are dying, and
that's what you wrote, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I put it in there.
Yeah.
It's funny. The people responded. I kind of shoehorned a second story in there because you can't talk to the dog, and we ran out of stuff to say, and so we were there, and there was this old guy wandering around. I didn't know if he had dementia or what. He kept going, I'm supposed to have pizza. I'm supposed to have pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And me and the photographer were looking at each other like, what is he talking about? I couldn't even understand him. Brian understood him. And I finally asked him, and they told me this elaborate story how this friend of his 8 months ago promised to come on this date for a pizza party and just forgot. She just said it. She was just talking. She probably didn't know if he'd be around. But he remembered it every day. He's been looking forward to this party. And so he was forlorn and wandering around. So one of the nurses said, we're going to have a pizza party, and I'll throw one for you. And it was just a very nice little gesture, you know, a story within a story, and we really didn't have much to go on, so I threw it in there. I kind of welded it in there, not terribly elegantly, but a lot of the people wrote and said that's what got them, like the old guy wandering and getting his pizza party. It's funny, you know, the things people will, for whatever reason, be uplifted by.
But the nursing home is a character in a way, right? Itself, not just the people that there. So when you do that, you kind of give us a better sense of that place. And you were talking earlier, John, about and forgive me if this was recorded. My memory's terrible, as Mike would tell you. I don't know if you were
moving to that
saying.
Yeah, some dog was.
Let's move him into that.
He found a dog sleeping on his couch.
John, will you take him up there?
I don't remember if you actually said this when we started recording before, but this idea of sometimes stories like this are tricky for you because you don't want them to be really saccharine and overly sentimental.
They're all like that,
and
you
so
know?
forth. But can I just say this though? And this is more of a comment than a question. I think that's one of my favorite things about the way you write. In this particular story, in a lot of folks' hands, and I don't want to say some at the Free Press, but that would be something Mike would say. But
I love it when Sean says something shitty. He says, somebody else would have said that.
That's a good move, Sean.
It's like when Sean calls the 800 number and says, my friend's having a problem with erectile dysfunction. His name is Braun. Can you help him? But go ahead there, shitbag.
Good move.
Emoter.
Well done.
Transference
I'm
bastard.
sorry, I did that just for him. But there was no.
Did that just for him. How kind.
Yeah, so now it comes back on me again.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
Oh, but that's one of your gifts, man. You took something
We're
that
gonna
could
have a
have
pizza
been,
party for Sean.
way too much, and it would have been right.
Oh, I appreciate
So
that.
sugary, and you didn't do that. You said I got to have something dark in there. Well, no, the premise of the story to some degree is death.
Dark, yeah,
it's death.
very dark.
You're talking about death. That's what you're talking about.
It's a
So
light
you didn't need to
yeah.
darken that up at all. What you did was perfect. And that's often the case. And I was talking to another colleague of ours the other day about, because we're talking about this story and just your stories in general. And to me, it
Was it
harkens
ML?
back. No, because it was actually about writing. But
he was talking to somebody who wouldn't have done it as well as John. Trying to coach him up. That's what Sean does.
But it reminds me a little bit.
Sean is the scout to the Free Press newsroom.
Of what I like is just, we don't need to bog this down into structure and sentence structure and all that, but just the tone. It reminds me a little bit of like Joseph Mitchell up in the old hotel, or John McPhee. Some of these guys and gals that used to, the way you tell stories, and you kind of remove yourself to a degree, and you just let it unfold and flow. And I think that's why people are so drawn to them, and we're drawn to this one. It's the dog, yes, but it's the way you lay it out there. You just kind of let it. It's like a river. It just kind of goes, and you want to get on and raft down it.
I like your stories because they're about real people, and as opposed to somebody that always has an agenda, like a politician or a businessman.
Yeah, I won't put
or
any
a
of that in
shitty
there.
sports columnist.
Well, I mean that's a little different. But
Agenda.
Is it too much to assume that you appreciate that too? Like these are genuine, real people that
Well, I
Art
seek
and
them
soul.
out. I try to write about people that, I always say about no one else writes about, just obscure people.
Forgotten ones, yeah.
And I hate happy endings. I just hate fakeness.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I got a story for you from my early days. You'll appreciate this. So a long ago editor, multiple editors ago. And they
At the Free Press?
Yeah. and
Was it
they-
Mike?
No, it wasn't Mike. He wasn't a...
Never been an editor.
He's always wanted to be the editor.
I've
so I'm
always
just
made an
curious.
honest living.
Anyway, so they sent me out on some assignment. This editor said, there's a woman whose husband committed suicide. He was a veteran. Go see her. She's on a farm, and I didn't know anything. So I went out there, and he hung him. She found him. He'd come back from Afghanistan. She went out to the barn one morning. He'd hung himself in the barn. She's the one who found him. So this is a few months later, and she had lost it. Like, she had these two big dogs. There was dog shit all over the house. She wasn't even cleaning it up. She was a little crazy to talk to.
Yeah, she'd given up.
Yeah, I mean, this destroyed her, This guy had PTSD. It was about PTSD, basically, and he couldn't take it. So I come back and write the story, and that's how I ended it. Well, this editor said, no, we need a happy ending. I'm like, well, there is no happy. She's crazy. She lost her mind. The story is, this is how bad PTSD is. We should treat it so this doesn't happen to other people. No, I want you to write a happy ending. Well, you tell me, what is it,
Yeah.
And so I wrote something that's probably full of code and caveats. But I was new. I didn't have, like nowadays, I'd say that I'm throwing the story away then.
Yeah.
But that's what I hate. Fake happy endings, fake saccharine, hallmarky stuff, because sometimes life's not like that. And that was not the case, And and it basically ended with her being nuts. But that's the truth. I'd
Well,
rather tell the
and-
truth than lie to make,
Right,
get a-
and that's what's going to move people to act. It's not going to be like, oh, her husband died and her dog shit all over the house, but everything's okay, so I guess we don't have to do
That's
anything.
what it was. That's how he wanted. It was just
Right.
tack on this ending that makes no sense whatsoever.
I had an editor one time. I filled in on a Sunday, and a little kid drowned at some beach somewhere around here, and they wanted me to add a line in it that said, "And that's why you have to be careful to watch your kids during the holidays." I said, "I think the story says that. I think that's as plain as it could possibly be. Child wanders away. Somebody else is supposed to watch them. They take their eyes off them. They drowned." Anybody who needs me to now add a line that says, "This is why you should keep an eye on your children at all times around bodies of water," I'm like, I don't think we need to beat somebody to death, not to mention kind of rub it in to somebody. And there was an editor when I was an intern at the Free Press. I tended to, and I'm sure Sean will mention this, overwrite stuff. And I wrote something about this, and I was in a
Wait,
rush.
the editor overwrote you, or you overwrite?
Overspoke to it. No, I wrote, I would tend to try and explain things, that should have just stood on their own. And I was in a rush, and I wrote something very simply, and my editor said, more of that, because he said, it's okay for you to jerk the tears, but don't let me feel your fingers in my eyeball. And I'm like, okay, I think I get that some things speak for themselves. And I think that dog story, I think one reason why it's resonated is because it speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to loneliness. It speaks to end of life. It speaks to that kind of this dog is almost like a spiritual character. It's almost like an angel coming there. So now I'm going to take it in a dark place. Sometimes when you get these old folks in these places, they become very possessive. Did you run into any stories where, like, Scout's always in so-and-so's room, and Mildred doesn't let Scout come into my room, and I want to knit with Scout on my lap, but Gertrude's always hogging Scout?
Not too bad. A few of them, they figured it out. So they got a giant industrial-sized bag of dog treats. So
It's going to be the fattest dog in the world, right?
Well, yeah, he barely ate dinner. They're feeding him all these biscuits, but nothing too crazy. They're really at that place in that household we were in, way at the end stages. Like I said, one of the guys we talked to died 3 weeks later. So they're very
right after his pizza party.
Well, it wasn't the guy who had it, but it was his friend at the party. I mean, it was a guy we spent some time with. It's always weird when someone goes that quick. You can expect it there, but no, they were all pretty. They were pretty normal. They were all pretty calm.
Okay. Is there anyone there that doesn't like the dog?
Thank you, Mark.
No, they said somebody. They said one
What?
person did. I didn't meet him. I think it was someone who visits, and the dog hates them back. They said the dog barks every time they walk in the door. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, well, dogs do have a real good sense. There's a great Twilight Zone episode with James Best, who
Well, here
people
we
know
go.
as Roscoe P. Coltrane, where he goes to heaven, and he's trying to get into heaven, and St. Peter says, "You can come in, but the dog can't." And he's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? What am I going to do without my dog?" So he's like, "Well, let me wander around." They walk around. They come to another gate, and he says, "Is this heaven?" He says, "Yeah, welcome, brother." And he says, "Can I bring my dog?" And he's like, "Absolutely. Wouldn't be heaven without a dog." And he's like, "Well, the other guy said I couldn't bring my dog." And he said, "Because that's hell. And the dog can smell the brimstone, so they don't want to let the dog in because they'll warn you that you're going to hell." So dogs, dogs are
Good one.
kind of
Never
special.
saw that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great one. It's a really good one. Real simple one. Getting a lot of comments here on YouTube. Francis J. Fox, big fan of John since his Metro Times day. Love you guys in the program, especially cramming when Sean's voice cracks. And then he says, ML is the man Spartian. So I don't know if you saw that, Sean, but we can comment on these YouTube watchers.
Yeah, my voice is a little gravelly today. Sorry.
No, you bring
Lovely.
great
Nothing
texture.
great. Nothing great.
Sort of like sandpaper on an open wound. Just a lot of grit. You make an impression.
So do we? I have a question for you, John. Thank you. Do we still have focus groups at the Free Press? Because I used to do some stories up north and around state, and partly it was driven by the focus groups. They would come and say, we need to spend more time up north than in the UP. This is 20 plus years ago, but
I wouldn't be surprised, but I try my best to avoid those at all costs. I just try. I like just going by instinct. I seem to have a good pattern. Find people that you wouldn't think you'd write about. I like when people scratch their heads when I say I'm going to write about this. Like I'll tell my editor, and he's like, "Well, what's the story?" I don't know.
Yeah, you listen to those focus groups. Next thing you know, you're writing every dog story.
Or you're right about
That's the problem. That's why I try to avoid them.
Yeah, then you're right about Rick Pellet Gun Krause, a guy who could spit a cherry pit for 100 yards or whatever. I don't know. Set a world record.
Is that one of your stories?
I did. I actually did do that.
Well, John's got to get up north, so we're gonna have to let him go. You know,
What a segue.
way back
The master.
way back when we used to have a up north correspondent who lived in Traverse City. Have they ever suggested that you move? Have you ever thought about moving up there?
No, in fact, in this, they're so tight with the budget. Half the time I'm worried they're not going to let me drive up there.
Well,
So
that's what I was going to ask next. Do you try and knock a couple stories off? Where you're like,
yeah.
if I go up, I can cover these 3 stories, bring it back, and then I'll write them.
we work like mules. We're up there.
Okay.
We do about a story a day, sometimes more. So if we go on a 3-day trip, we'll work 16-hour days, get 3 stories, come back, and you sleep for 2 days. And we're just constantly working.
Can you do a story on all the dispensaries up there? That's what blew my mind.
Yeah, I know. Me
I was-
too.
I
They're
was
just
like,
growing like weeds up there, so to speak.
Pun intended. Yeah.
No, I hate puns too. I regret that.
I was just shocked. I'm like,
At
per
it.
capita, this must be the
Yeah,
most.
Mark will
dispensaries.
clean it up in post.
Where is it that you have to get to that you can't stay with?
None of your
Mr. Heller?
business.
He's got to go volunteer at his kid's school.
He's got to see somebody about a dog.
Yeah, a man about a dog. That's what they do up north. John, thanks for coming on.
Gentlemen, it was
And-
fun.
And if you love John's work, please subscribe to the Free Press. We got to cover that mileage. Maybe he can go up there and maybe sleep 3 days and work 2 days.
And actually stay in a hotel?
Yeah, or actually upgrade the hotel from the kind with the pee in the bed. That's a whole other story, though.
Was that extra?
I could fill an hour with the stories about the stuff in the bed.
Well, we're going to have you come back. You're going to have to tell some of
I
your
would love
travel
to.
horror
Come back.
stories.
I'll just throw in random comments. I'm right up the road. Have me anytime.
Okay, well, the door's unlocked, so that's how Sean got in. So come on back. So John Carlisle, Detroit Free Press, check out his work. Great story. You'll find a link to his story on our website. That's mlsolvedetroit.com. And check us out, man. If you have never seen John in person, check out the replay on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, hit the bell for alerts. You'll always know when we go live, and it helps our show. We're trying to catch up to the Drew and Mike podcast. I think we're at 490 subscribers. They're up to what?
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, and then they have the secret $1.4 million YouTube page. So we got a long way to go. So please help us get there. Don, good to see you on Facebook watching us. And John, we'll see you in the paper, man.
John is so smart. He's not going to have to listen to Geek of the Week or Room 7609. I'm very envious.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
Every once in a while, something happens on TV that's not supposed to happen. It's unscripted, which is also the name of a great book I'm reading. If you've never heard
Like
about
this show.
the Sumner Redstone book, it's like it's like the real Succession. I mean, it's an incredible.
Oh, he's a nut.
I'm 100 pages into it. It's 344 pages. I'm 100 pages into it, and so far it's all about the 2 women who have been trying to take over his empire. And he's like, I want them to have $50 million. I want them to have $50 million. And they keep bringing women to have sex with them.
They
And
should have gotten him a dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. A scout would have saved him millions, if not billions. But there are these moments that happen on TV that really say everything that needs to be said without meaning to say it. And that happened on Saturday, and I think it was Peacock, where they had the big turd. Did you see that?
No,
guys?
what happened?
So they had the anchors. It was Mike Tirico and whoever the color guy is standing in front of the big Saturday sign. Uh-huh. And the way they were framed, they covered up the SA from the Saturday and the AY from Saturday. So it just said big turd.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it went viral. But that exactly captured my feeling about what's going on with television and college football. So for having a moment, and these productions are very carefully scripted. They're very plotted out. People are blocked out, stand on this X, stand there, and they frame everything so they make sure they don't have something like that. So if you're doing a stand-up in front of a building, you don't have a telephone pole coming out of your head so you look like My Favorite Martian or something. So Peacock, for finally, in an unscripted moment, telling us what's really happening with college football. Thank you for the big turd, and congratulations. You're also our Geek of the Week.
There's an all-night party and
Wait. What? I think Sean wants to
Can't
respond
let
all of a
that
sudden.
go
No.
unchecked. I'm going to keep this.
I would
quick.
like to point out, too.
Finally, that's what's wrong with college football, Mark. Where was Mike Friday night? Where was he?
I
I
assume
was
he's in
in
East
Spartan
Lansing.
Was he at a college football game?
Of course
Yes.
he
Okay,
was.
then enough said. All right, let's move on.
By the way, the
Wait. What does that mean? The TV is wrecking college football. I was there in person. I wasn't watching it.
I disagree because I watched so many games this weekend. I thought it was awesome.
There you go.
Right?
No, it was great. In fact, the best game I saw this weekend, Wyoming, Texas Tech.
Oh, double overtime.
Did anybody see that
What
game?
about the TCU?
yes.
The TCU Colorado
Fantastic
game.
Yes.
Also a great game, but I expected
I'm glad
TCU
every single game's on TV.
and Colorado to be an interesting game. But I never thought I'd stay up late watching Wyoming play Texas Tech.
See, are you glad?
No. Hey.
Why not?
Listen, college football is one of my favorite sports. It's great. This consolidation, everything, gonna ruin it. It's a big turd. But
By the way, I'd like to point out
I
that
love the way Mark goes.
well, it's not going to.
That's how he dismisses people.
Well, people have been talking about it's going to ruin college football now for years. How money's going to ruin it for years and years and years.
Mark either says or.
By the way, the
Really?
number one streaming
either
streaming
really
college football
or
game
eh.
Peacock's ever had. Just want to throw that out.
Yeah.
What,
It's the
Michigan
only
and
one they've ever
Carolina?
had too, right?
No, they had Notre Dame on the last 2 years or last
Oh,
year.
did they?
Yeah, huh?
that's great.
I think when they lost to Marshall, I think that game was only on Peacock, and people were scrambling.
By
to
the
find
way,
it.
how about
So
Keon Coleman?
here's what's wrong with college TV. I wanted to watch it at a bar I was at in East Lansing. They said Peacock's the only station we don't get.
Well, they're going to need it because Spartans appear on there later this year.
Great. So I have to pay more to watch college football.
Don't you
So
have
college football can play everybody more. I mean,
Can somebody correct me on this? I thought if you had Xfinity internet and cable that you got it for what, another $1 or $2.
Maybe you do. I haven't explored it
see,
just because I
everybody-
don't need to watch that much TV. But I
Oh,
mean,
you will when you're
Yeah,
Spartans
no,
on.
don't pay for it. I mean, yeah, watch it for free.
I've
don't
never
pay the
paid for it.
players. Yeah.
So here's the first
Why
time,
would you want to pay for it? I
and
mean,
the only time you'll
just
ever
keep
hear me
exploiting
say
them.
this: do not go to the Caju Cafe tonight, Tuesday, September 5th, because they're closed. But they'll be open again on Wednesday with karaoke. On Friday, Powderfinger, a Neil Young tribute, is playing. And we also have ceremonies for the Men's Feather Bowling League with an appearance by Belgian American Association of the Detroit Concert Band. So check out the Feather Bowling League and check out all the fun stuff happening that's Thursday. Big Al's Jamboree is going to be there on Saturday. Dave Edwards tribute to Delbert McClinton on Sunday. And on Monday, it's going to be Dan Radden, Lee Cleveland, and the Left Hand Band and the Dormant Police. So check out the Caju Cafe. It's Muscle Madness on Monday. Find out more about what's going on at cajucafe.com. And we wrap up our summer of Britpop with Suede performing a little ditty that they call Europe is Our Playground.